JT Miller's injury status implications is forcing the Canucks to make even more crucial lineup changes, and the depth scoring from Vancouver has proven to be the key to unlocking success this season. We're going to be breaking down all that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss any updates surrounding the Canucks as we almost finish this road trip. With that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is JT Miller injury implications. So if you watched the game on Saturday, you would know that JT Miller did leave the game for a little bit, just early on in the game after the faceoff, and then came back but wasn't taking faceoffs for the rest of the game. Tocchet saying on Saturday after the game, saying he's dealing with some stuff. We'll figure it out in the next couple of days, but we didn't want him to take faceoffs. And then he elaborated further, saying he played well for us even though he wasn't taking faceoffs. Acknowledging Miller's contribution despite his adjusted role, Miller logged 17 minutes of ice time, recording 1 shot, 3 hits, a +1 rating, and some time on the penalty kill against the Flyers. And when Miller was asked about it today in after practice, he was saying, I forgot my mouth guard for 1 shift when he was asked about the injury. Obviously that was not the case. He is just downplaying what it was as well and not trying to show what it was that took him out of the game for a bit and forced him to stay out of the face-off circle for the rest of the game. We know that he missed the preseason and he was dealing with something there. Maybe it's the same thing and it got re-aggravated on that first face-off. Maybe it's a whole entirely different thing. Maybe it's a new thing that's just popped up for him. But again, this is something that is going to be something to monitor for the Canucks in a year that has been riddled with injuries. We know Dakota Joshua is back skating with the team again today, so hopefully that goes to show that he's going to be back in the lineup sooner than later, because the Canucks are going to need all hands on deck as this season gets underway even further. And when talking about if Miller would practice today, I expect him to be at practice today, but you never know. We'll see how it is. He'll probably get a couple of days to rest, and we'll see where it goes from there. That was when speaking about the practice earlier today. Before it was seen that also in the tweet, he said that the club will see tomorrow if he's able to take draws in practice. Tocchet wouldn't commit to Miller being in the lineup for sure, but read between the lines, he seems to be trending well. However, when looking at practice today, Miller did not practice in Chicago, as he took what the organization described as a maintenance day. Follows a trend of Miller dealing with lingering issue through the first part of this season, like we just said. And the thing that is going to be something with this is that the power play units have changed. We see that Miller is not on there whatsoever. So unless he unless he has just a day where he's just sitting out and Baines was just on there as just, hey, here's the extra in case he can't go, that's going to be a little concerning as far as JT Miller's status. Maybe he isn't going to be playing tomorrow night against the Chicago Blackhawks. Maybe we're going to have to go this game a little bit with shorthanded without one of our top 4 players, one of our top point scorers. He led us in points as far as forwards went last season, and we wanted him to build on that this season, and he just hasn't been able to do that yet. He did score the overtime winner in Florida. That was amazing to kind of get this season going. But when looking at these power play lines, they're a little balanced. They're pretty nice. I do love Garland, Boeser, and Pettersson on one line on the same pairing with Baines and Hughes there. And I do love where you have Sprong, Heinen, and DeBrusk. Heinen has kind of proven not to be the greatest of the new additions so far, but maybe this is a case scenario where he could just break out within this second power play unit. But again, the power play is going to be something that Vancouver has to get going at some point this season. It's been struggling. It's been a factor, and we're going to be talking about that later on in this video. But there is going to be some concern as far as Miller and something to monitor as well heading into this game. But what do you guys think if JT Miller is going to play? Do you play him on a little bit of a pitch count or a clock count where you monitor his ice time? Or do you just take him out for the game? You rest him. It is early on in the season. We don't want to see anyone get injured more than they already are. We don't want to push anything. We saw what happened with Demko. Hopefully the Canucks have learned their lesson. Me personally, it's a game against Chicago where it's early on in the season. Chicago isn't that great of a team, so I'm not saying we got to take them lightly, but it is a game where maybe Miller can sit out. It's early on in the season. I know we want to get the momentum going. We finally have momentum beneath us, and we're finally doing things as well. So this could be something where Vancouver just does not have JT Miller. I'm okay with it personally, but what do you guys think? Are you okay with sitting out Miller this game? Would love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is depth is the key to unlocking success. And this is from an article by Jeff Patterson saying that depth players is the key to the Canucks heading in the right direction. The first player of which that we're going to look at is a new addition, Kiefer Sherwood. Retroactively, the NHL added 4 hits for Kiefer Sherwood last night. This was tweeted out the other day. So registering 10 hits in Florida on Thursday, he finished with 9 in Philly. So he leads the league now. Instead of 29, it is 32 hits, which is 6 more than any other forward in the league. So Sherwood is already making a name for himself in Vancouver. We knew this is what he was going to do. This is what we wanted him to do. This is exactly why we brought him here, to ruffle feathers, get hits, be physical, and emphasize the physical nature of this Vancouver Canucks team. Once we get Dakota Joshua back, which is going to be very soon, it would seem, it's going to be an even more physical team where you have these guys on the ice together, or just coming off of the ice on exchanging lines and catching guys in transition and just knocking them right on the ice, making sure they can't get off very easily, or making it very difficult for them to get to their bench and get to safety. But it's going to be nice to see how it happens when he fits back in that lineup, and how he plays with Kiefer Sherwood on opposing lines, just seeing how they can rack up the hits. Sherwood being one of those guys, I think it's great that Vancouver has that going for them, especially when we don't have many other hitters on the team. So Sherwood doing this is just awesome right off the bat. It's great to get him going. He's been on the point. He's gotten a goal. He's gotten an assist. And he's also been getting involved in the physical nature. So that is going to be a great thing to see. And again, he's one of those depth guys. He's not one of those top six guys necessarily, but he's one of those bottom line guys where in the third and fourth line, he's going to make a splash. And as well, Teddy Blueger is off to a fantastic start with 2 goals and an assist. This is a player that missed all of training camp and most of the preseason after an undisclosed late summer medical procedure, but despite that has slipped back into the third line center role with a completely different line mate set, but he has found a way to leave his mark in a couple of games already. Blueger started last season on the injured list and didn't score his second goal or register his third point until December 7th, so he's well ahead of last year's pace. So this is awesome to see for Blueger as well, getting off to the start this year. And as well, no surprise, Connor Garland has been at the top of his game since the first day of training camp. He's been making a statement since Penticton and has carried that through the team's first 5 outings of the season, scoring twice and adding a pair of assists. Outside of Lankinen, Garland has been the best Canuck in the early going. I definitely agree with what Pettersson is saying here. I think Garland has been one of those guys where he's been one of the bright spots. He has been one of those things where even when the Canucks lost, he was one of those guys that was just working his butt off and making sure to make the most of it. Even in the playoffs last year, he almost personally willed the Canucks himself to a victory by just going out there and not giving up. He's one of those guys that is never going to give up, even when it looks like the fight is over. It's definitely a guy who embodies that Canucks mentality of just keeping us in there, like a guy like Brock Boeser, like a guy like Kevin Lankinen, and it has paid off in spades. And this is a year where he is really starting to break out even more. The other thing, the depth scoring has been a welcome sight through the first week and a half of the season, but it's depth scoring for a reason, and it's likely to fade for stretches. However, the hope now is that those lower in the lineup have done enough to buy stars on the team, little time to figure out how to take over games. Through 5 games, the Canucks have just 14 goals and 13 in regulation time. That puts them 25th overall offense despite the struggles to score. Outside the first period opener against Calgary, the Canucks are 2-1-2 with points in 4 or 5, just 1 outright loss. It really should be no worse than 3-1-1 had they found a way to turn either the first 2 games into their favor. And the thing where the Canucks have been struggling very predominantly has been the power play. Like we said earlier, we see that they're changing things up on the power play, and that's been the biggest point of concern. They are 1 for their last 14, and on Saturday night failed to register a single shot on goal in 4 minutes with the man advantage. For all the offseason talk of learning and playoff struggles, the power play looks like it's right back where it was down the stretch through the postseason. The Canucks need to figure that out in a hurry. Absolutely, this is something the Canucks need to figure out. It's something that is going to be a problem that if it continues to go, it's going to be a long-term problem, just like it was last season. So this is something the Canucks definitely need to fix. Hopefully with these new power play units that they're looking at rolling with for the game against Chicago, maybe that gets something going. Maybe we get a power play goal, maybe even 2. Maybe it's someone like Petey, where if Petey scores a power play goal, that's going to be a great confidence boost for him because it's revitalizing the power play and also getting him back on track of point scoring. What do you guys think about the depth signings we've had this season and how they have outshined the top 4 players? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments, but that's going to take us into our final topic of the day, which is comment of the day. We see here from Nostra Davis 5051 that the dish from Petey from Big Hogue looks sweet and simple, but showed some of the elite vision Petey has. Hopefully it helps him kickstart his engine again and he rolls out of November with some good games under his belt. I definitely agree with this. I think that was one of Petey's best games of the season. That setup for Höglander was awesome. Those guys have been clicking, especially with Connor Garland. It's been the best line on this team without a doubt. So hopefully we see more of this trio going forward, and I think eventually Petey is going to find his way scoring multiple goals in multiple games. Hopefully get him back to the way that he was before the skid at the end of last season and in the postseason. and we get him back to the normal PD. But what do you guys think down in the comments? What do you guys think is going to be the point total as far as the bottom 6 guys and the top 6 guys by the end of the year? Would love to hear what you guys have to say, but that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates. We have Dakota Joshua updates coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to do it for today's video. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.